And thank you everyone for coming to the first quarter call with CEO Adam Alonso.
Awesome. Thank you, Kirsten. Good to see everybody on the call. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and walk us through. So I typically my first slide, I always pick some sort of picture that I feel sort of captures the quarter, if you will. And this is one of the events we did in July about building the block. And I think it just signifies how important our community work has really become, with all that's happened since the pandemic, social unrest, violence in our neighborhood. It really is about bringing people back together in spaces where they can be in community. And so we'll get started. Our mission, of course, is to inspire hope and offer opportunities so youth facing systemic obstacles can achieve positive futures. Our work, the way we think about it on the right, is the core of our work in purple is our intervention, prevention, education work. I'll talk a little bit more about that. We surround that with enrichment programming and services, and we also surround that with clinical and community wellness supports. Folks always ask, how do young people get to you? First and foremost, young people vote with their feet. So they show up to build because they like programming, they are engaged with the adults in the building, they like the vibe and the feel and how they feel when they're inside, connected to people. And then on the left, obviously, there's a variety of ways that young people come to us by referrals, and there you have it. Our intervention team, and I'm going to pop through these quickly, just sort of as a quick who we are before I get into more of the updates, but our intervention team works with gang involved and justice involved young people. We work to try to get them out of the system, out of their gang life when they're ready to transition out. And we are staffed by individuals who have been in their shoes once upon a time and are able to be the most credible messengers to our young people. I'm sorry, let me go back. We provide them with intensive mentoring and support services as they need, and then integrate them into all of the other services Build has to offer when it's appropriate and as they want. Our prevention programming is working with our youngest builders. They are as young as 5 through, so kindergarten through middle school. Many of our prevention programs are housed in neighborhood schools. And when we were at our building, we held an after-school program there on site at 5100. So arts, education, supports, social emotional learning, sort of all the great things you would have in a quality after-school program is what we provide for our young people. Our education work that we do is helping young people see a path to college. We help them navigate from application to college exploration. We work with their families and their parents as well to understand what it's like to navigate that process, get through it, and then send their son or daughter off to college. We actually have a college and access and persistence coach who works with those who are in college to stay in college. We know that for many of our young people, this is their first time leaving their neighborhoods, their communities, and so they need additional support to be able to stay through school and persist. And so our coach helps them to do that. We also tie back to the families and help the families if there's any sort of short-term or immediate crisis that needs some either financial assistance or support. Build steps in to provide that for the families so that their students don't feel compelled to leave school and come home. Our enrichment work is just that, sort of all the cool programming that young people, we want to expose them to, the arts, music, podcasting, arts, sports, and these are also hooks into the organization, right? We may have young people who want to come just for sports and then learn more about all the other things we offer because they came in through that sports door. Open to all young people, all ages, and again, a way to really provide them with an opportunity to learn and to grow a bit differently maybe than they have before. And I'll say this, oftentimes our enrichment programming actually takes the place of what schools have removed. When there are budget cuts and shortfalls, arts, music, sports are kind of the first things that get cut. So we know how vital for us to provide this for our young people. It's critical to our students and our neighborhoods. Lastly, our clinical and community wellness team, they are responsible for individual and group therapy with our young people. We have been very successful thus far in getting our young people to recognize that speaking to a therapist is actually a good thing. They schedule their appointments. In cases and moments of crises, they call their social worker to try to have them calm them down, sort of talk them off the ledge. And those are important steps for our young people, as we know. They're living in communities with extreme violence. They may be in a home that doesn't have all the resources it needs. And so our young people, sadly, come to us with a lot of trauma behind them. And so we provide that space for them to be in community. We also provide space for them to sit one-on-one with a therapist and work through some really, really difficult things that are going on in their life. So that is Build in a nutshell. Let me catch you up on what summer looked like for us. So we held summer camps, as you may recall, last year, the first year in pandemic, we held outdoor camp on Build location, and we were actually in these tent-like structures, and that was an incredible way to have young people be served. This year, we were able to serve young people in Austin. We did it actually at Christ the King, one of our partner schools. They opened up their school for us to use it to run summer camp, and then we did it at Erie Charter School in Humboldt Park. So we had 100 kids who were served, 50 in each community. All the great things you would like. It's a 7-hour day, 5 days a week. You've got field trips, you've got activities, you've got outdoor parks and recreation that young people did. We also, this year, the mayor's office reached out to us to hire young people to really engage other young people in their communities, so teenagers to engage other teenagers in their neighborhoods. And they were a group that put together what's called the Summer Kickbacks. And they held 10 events across Humboldt Park. Our neighborhood that we were asked to support was Humboldt Park. So I have a couple of the flyers up top, a little bit small, but you can see them there. They have basically a way, it would be outdoors in community, typically on a corner or on a block that they would shut down and bring everyone together to enjoy music, food, information. And again, it was a fun way to engage teenagers, engaging teenagers to have a safe opportunity to just be a kid. Our Hoops in the Hood, which is basketball throughout the various neighborhoods that we support. We held 4 of those events, about 150 young people were served. And then our One Summer Chicago, which is our summer youth employment program, we served about almost 240 young people, ages 14 to 22. And the picture you see below was a cohort of 20 youth who were actually doing coding, computer coding this summer. So it was a really cool opportunity for them. All of the young people get paid, and Kirsten, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's $14 an hour is what they're making, which right now in the city of Chicago, minimum wage is $15, but it's up from $8.25, what the federal wage was. So the city made it for our young people, prioritize them making and bumping that salary up to $14 an hour. So it was a great opportunity for them to make money, to learn and gain skills. Their work sites were spread out across the city. Some were with Build in our summer camps. Some were out there hosted with some of the Hoops in the Hood, and they provided the support and leading those as well. And then we had other employers who hosted our young people. This year, there was still a virtual aspect to it, and there was also more in-person work than in the prior year, which was fully virtual. We also are building Girls to Women program, which is specific for our young women who have experienced violence and trauma. They actually put together and worked this summer on a comic book called The Sheroes of COVID, and they got to tell their stories. And this was in partnership with The Simple Good. which is an international nonprofit that really helps communities and people realize there are simple ways to find goodness and to spread that and share that. So we're partnered with them and had a comic book release, which was really great. Field trips, of course, are an important part of summer, and this year we were able to do them. As you see, our young people on a bus, windows down and masks on, well, mostly on. But it's a very different way to do summer, right? When you're completely masked, which we did as we did last year. This year, for our Donna Dudley Softball Peace League, as you may recall, COCO, one of our beloved staff members, passed away last year. And so we did this entire softball season was a tribute to him and his legacy. And so the Peace League begins early summer and wraps up in August with an all-star game. And that is for, you'll see young people of all ages and playing softball, and on the bottom in Moore Park. Actually, I think it's actually Columbus Park. We held some of our games this year, and police are there. This is for adults who are in the Adult Softball League, and it's a way to bring in various community groups together across communities to be there for a peaceful game of softball. Successful as always, and grateful that we were able to do that this year. So Build for decades has given away Officer Cali Award, and we always do it during the All-Star game. And we honor someone who has represented what Officer Cali did to Build, which was to give back, to be there to support our young people. And this year, the Officer Cali Award went to COCO CALIXTO. So the picture above is his family receiving the award on his behalf. Again, a great way to share in COCO's legacy. So we retired the award. We gave the last one to COCO. And then we launched the new COCO CALIXTO Community Hero Award in the same venue. And so that went to, on the bottom right picture is Carmen Rance Flores, who has been working out of the San Lucas Church for decades herself. Her and COCO have a long history of community work in Humboldt Park together. And we thought it only fitting that she be the first recipient of COCO's Legacy Award. I know she was taken aback. I don't think she realized sort of the weight and the gravity of it. But it was a beautiful way to celebrate COCO. 37 years he gave back to young people across Humboldt Park, Austin, the West Side, with love and respect and kindness. Everyone has a COCO story. Every single person who met COCO has a COCO story. And those stories are always good. So we're very pleased to be able to honor him in this way and keep his legacy alive. I'm going to share this with you. So Kirsten, if there's no volume, let me know.
So today we have the One West Side Peace March. Our violence prevention community organizations from all across the West Side have started in their own neighborhoods. West Humboldt Park, Austin, Garfield Park, and North Lawndale.
As you can hear from the honking and people cheering and celebrating as we're moving along, this is what people believe in, this is what people want.
And right now we're all coming together on this corner at Madison and Pulaski. We're going to show unity and coming together to finish that final leg of the march all together as one.
We walked through a very important part of this neighborhood. I saw some of the young men who were involved in the narcotics trade and involved in the violence actually step up to the curb and start clapping. So what does that tell you? That tells you that they want to change. That tells you that they recognize that people actually care.
Anytime there is a peace march, anytime there's a group of people gathered for a peaceful celebration, community shows up.
And community did show up. And I can't speak to how critical these are in our neighborhoods, right? This is what gives people hope. It actually puts a smile on everyone's face. People are honking, as I mentioned in that clip. That was 4 different neighborhoods from the West Side that came together, and Deputy Chief Cato had that vision early on to really make, instead of an Austin march, let's do a West Side march. And I think all of us were absolutely in support. I could say that I was a little I wasn't sure how we were all going to make it happen, but we did. And so when we finally all met up on Madison and Pulaski, that's a huge, busy intersection, and we shut it down, and all the groups coming together and the cheering and the honking, and it was just like a huge reunion, and then walked our way through into Garfield Park where we wrapped up the event. It was beautiful. And these are, sorry, I'm in a school, passing period. So when you're doing these things, it really, these help. Can you say that in the moment that it has stopped violence? No, not necessarily. But what it does is it sheds light and hope and gives people a smile. It makes people see that people do care. And so it was such a great event, and what a great way to really unite the West Side as a One West Side March. There it is. Our mobile mental health van has launched. I've talked about it from our last update. Here it is, fully wrapped. They have been very busy at summer events. They have responded and been called out by police and other groups when there's been acts of violence in the neighborhood. They will pull up to a corner, they'll canvass, they'll go door to door and talk to people, and then bring people onto the bus to have a triage conversation and then get connected to services as needed. The update to this is that we had a company called The Parking Spot donate 2 more of these buses to us. So now we have a mini fleet of mobile mental health vehicles that will be deployed across the city. The exciting thing about this is that they go in, they get retrofitted so that they look very different on the inside than the way that we got them. So grateful to have an amazing team and the support of various foundations and individuals who really believed in this model and still believe in it. So we know that when we get our other 2 buses wrapped, we'll have more out there in the streets of Chicago. So this is August was a big month for us. It was the move out of 5100, our office and headquarters for a little over a decade. And we have now moved ourselves into 4 locations, as you see on the left: Michelle Clark High School, which is where I'm at currently; the Austin Family Community Center, which is on Austin near Lake Street. Central near Lake Street; Bethel New Life, which is close to Division and Cicero; and then our Humboldt Park office, which you may have heard from a while back that we opened over a year and a half ago. And just update on the chickens, they safely were relocated, have a brand new coop here at Michelle Clark in their courtyard. And what we learned is that the students here will go in between their breaks to come and pet the chickens and spend time with them. I've always said that these were like my therapy pets during the pandemic, and it's true. Like, our young people show up and they like it, and people love to just be with the chickens and pet them and grab the eggs and feed them. There's something very sort of soothing about their presence there. So they have found a new home with us here and are thriving and doing well. August 12th was the day, our big groundbreaking ceremony. So exciting to be able to work up to the moment where you finally are going to put that shovel in the ground and make it formal. You go from being sort of a fundraising privately and quietly during the quiet phase to a more public phase of the campaign and announcing to the world what Build is doing. And here are a couple pictures from our launch and getting everyone with their shovel in the ground. I told this story last time, I'll tell it again. So that big pile of dirt has a funny story. It wasn't funny at the time, but I look at it now and laugh. So I just assumed you'd come with a tiller and like till up the ground and have something to dig. But in fact, they brought a huge dump truck full of dirt and poured it out in a space that we designated. And so when the dump truck dumps it all back, it's just one big mountain of dirt. And so that first day, a bunch of us shoveled it down, and Kirsten's like, well, are you done shoveling? I was like, Kirsten, all of us almost had a heart attack shoveling in the sun with thousands of pounds of dirt. So she went out with another crew the next day and got it lower and more spread out. And I was like, God bless you, Kirsten, because I was not going out there again. So funny thing about the dirt, but it was great. Put the shovel in. And, you know, we had everyone there, elected officials, we had young people, we had community folks who lived across the street and in the neighborhood. We had nonprofit partners, we had funders. It's just a beautiful way. And as the testimonies ring out, when you hear people talking about how this is going to change things for Austin, why this is so important for the neighborhood, for the babies, for families, it just reaffirmed what we have always believed when we started on this project a few years back. It just reaffirmed or affirmed to us that, yes, we have been on the right track and doing the right thing. So as a reminder, this is what we are building, 51,000 square feet of space. Excited for all the things that will be inside and outside. You can actually go to our website now, and we have a complete tab that will walk you through what is happening in real time. It'll show you what our plans are for this building inside and out. It's a great way to really orient yourself in there. And then, of course, if you feel compelled and you're excited, you want to be a part of it, there's ways to get involved as well. This is what it looks like as things were coming down and they're digging up and getting ready to pour foundation. And of course, you see our front doors wide open. And I didn't realize that they had removed the little tower that was there that had the words build on it and the walkway. It took me, I think, a couple weeks to realize that was missing. But here it is, and looking good. This is what, from the overhead back view is, and this is where we're at now. And these pictures are through September. So obviously there's been more, this has been changing and growing every day, I will say. What I will tell you is, as an update, is that at the end of October, the precast panels will arrive, the steel will arrive November 1st, and the building itself, the new building that will be built, will start to take shape. So super excited for that. Stay tuned, and stay tuned to the website for updates. So it's wild to see the inside of the building that we have been in, that has been offices, program space, to look like this as demolition is happening. And so just to be clear, we didn't take the building down, we just gutted it because it will be reused. And so the demo work is complete. There is a few more things that they're doing on the inside, and then the remodel will begin. Exciting to see it all take shape. I'm literally across the street, so I see it every single day that I come. I try not to bother the contractor and show up and do a walk-in every single day. I want them to stay busy and do their work, but I just can't help myself sometimes to go over there and just see the progress that's being made. And then this last slide, I just want to share with you all. I think I've shared this on the last update. There are a lot of amazing capital projects that have either wrapped up or that are underway. So at the very bottom, that blue star is us. So that's, our Build the Future project that's underway now. If you go all the way to the extreme top, it's the North Austin Community Center by the Hand Club. Has 140,000 square foot of space that they're putting together with sports courts, all sorts of cool things that they're doing. And then as you come to the middle, there's the Central Austin Community Center, the Aspire Center. You may have heard a lot about that. The Laramie State Bank, which is another project that's getting ready to kick off. Kieran Center for the Arts is Austin's first complete full theater with the sound and the seating and the acoustics, everything. It's an amazing space. I share this to say the amount of incredible investment that is underway here in Austin. And so when you hear the news of things that seem grim and not positive, know that there are a bazillion other things that are happening, and a bazillion, I know is not a real word, but a whole lot of great things that are happening. And these projects in particular are a way to signal to the community, to our young people, that they matter, and that those of us who work here in this community and are providing services, we really care. We want to see revitalization. We want to see Austin families staying here in their homes. We want kids thriving. We want amazing schools. We want with them what they want. And so this is how you start to build hope. This is how you start to turn communities around. And this is what gets people excited for where they are and where they live. So I share that with you to know that there are, in addition to what Build is doing, there are a lot of other great projects, and my colleagues in the field who are doing this work, we stand shoulder to shoulder with each other in total support of their work. And we all are talking about each other's projects in a way that is so great and honors, the work that that community organization may already do, but excited for what the future impact will be. So that is it on my presentation. And I think if you have questions, we'll take your questions.
Yes, there's a few in the chat already. I'll go through them. A question about this year's budget. Is it bigger than last year's?
Yes, good question about the budget. So we are bigger than last year. We are $8.2 million. We're growing, obviously. We've been growing year over year, and that is to meet the needs of our community. Within the space of youth services and what's happening around the city, responding to youth violence, doing prevention of violence, and really being there in the mental health space. These are all the areas that Build does its work in. And this is the time now where foundations, government, private funders, everyone is really coalescing and pulling their dollars to support that, which has allowed for not just Build to grow. A lot of my colleagues are in the same space growing. And, if you think back to 2015, and this is not political, it's just the fact, when we had Governor Rauner in office, many of the organizations closed because he wasn't paying bills, right? He wasn't honoring contracts, really trying to create change in the state as he saw. So many of our contemporaries during that time actually shut down because the state stopped paying them. And so if you look at that as a really bleak and grim year, and you fast forward to today, 6 years later, it's night and day entirely with the amount of funds that are available for this work. So we're in a good space, we're doing good work, and we're responding in our neighborhoods in the way that we need to.
Where are the programs taking place without a headquarters?
Great question. So Build's programs historically have always been and still are in schools. And so now that schools are back in session, our programs are opened back up in our neighborhood schools. And of course, the 4 locations I mentioned earlier, we're providing additional services there. So Bethel New Life, Michelle Clark, Humboldt Park, and the Awesome Family Community Center. Those are additional places where our programming is happening, in addition to our regularly scheduled school-based program work.
Yeah, question about lingering pandemic. Are there pandemic programs that you think will become permanently part of Build?
Let's talk about the virtual space, right? I think we know that the virtual space for our programming was one of the first things we did when the pandemic hit, right? And everyone stayed home. We did a lot of our virtual work that way in Instagram hubs or on Facebook, and of course through Zoom and Google Hangouts. So those spaces still exist today, not in the same way that they did for the first year that we were living through pandemic. What we know is that we really, while that's an easy way to connect, I don't think we'll ever completely do away with virtual. But if anything we've learned during this time, you need everyone together in person. There is no substitute for being in person with people in community, feeling the energy, reading body language clearly, understanding clearly when you're communicating, right? This is a great way for us to have up-to-date information. So yeah, I think this is a good way to keep it. But in terms of programming for young people, we know that we have to get everyone back together in person. And even as I'm here in Michelle Clark High School and knowing and seeing the challenges and hearing from our principal who says, these kids don't know how to act. They have been away far too long. They're not used to being in close quarters with people in this way. And so there have been some challenges here in the school because of that. And so we all, as folks who are working with young people, know we need to bring everyone back in community together, safely, of course, always. But the virtual space will remain in some capacity for us when young people just cannot make it to our spaces. to be in person, we will always have some sort of virtual option that they can be a part of.
Yeah, and a lot of the community engagement programs, I think, that we got pulled into. And that relates to this other question about vaccine drives. Does Bill do anything with vaccine drives?
Sure. So we have been actively supporting our partners who are doing vaccine efforts in communities. We ourselves are partners with Chicago Community Trust, and there are a number of other nonprofit partners who are working with youth to create a vaccine campaign, and young people are encouraging other young people to get vaccinated. So we are definitely a part of that as well. And we support that, right? CPS came out with a mandate that requires their staff and anyone inside the school to be vaccinated. And so as an update to that, Build in response had a vaccine mandate as well. And so we've required our teams to be fully vaccinated. And if there are those who have a medical or religious accommodation, we've allowed for that as well, but weekly testing. And, you know, I'll just say, what we experienced in our mandate was comparable to what everyone across the country, what you're hearing, right? Not everyone's on board with a vaccine. And so we did lose a few people who just felt like it wasn't their space and they didn't want to be here with a mandate to get a vaccine. So, and I respect everyone's right to have their opinion and to make their decisions. So there's nothing special about what we experienced in my mind than what sort of we're seeing on the news and across various workplaces, right? I will say that CPS was the first, After School Matters was another one, who we are a recipient of theirs, and they had very clear vaccine mandates that we would have to follow as well. So as I talk to my colleagues across other organizations, they're in a similar space of instituting vaccine mandates for their teams based on, you know, funding requirements, or just it's the best practice, right? It's the tool we have in our toolbox to be able to fight against COVID.
Here's Paul's question about, will there be a gala this year?
Ooh, Pa, exciting. Yes. I will tell you that we have been we've always just dreamed about getting back in person, Paul, for a gala, right? You know, in 2020, it was like, wow, what are we going to do? We can't be in person. Then in we said, but in 2021, we know we can get there. And then we made the decision, no, we can't. But April 29th, mark your calendars, the last Friday of 2022, we will be in person at Navy Pier. And I think, of course, there will be, you must be vaccinated, as many of the galas that are happening now are requiring guests to be vaccinated if they're coming to this event. So more to come, and that is just getting ready to roll out in the coming weeks. But yes, our plan is to be in Navy Pier, April 29th, 2022. Fingers crossed.
Yes, question from Kathleen. Are there any current activity in the restorative justice initiative in Austin or other areas?
Yeah, so our restorative justice team has been incredibly busy, Kathleen, during this time in schools. So here in particular, Michelle Clark has lost 3 students since the start of the school year. You may have heard of one, Kiera Moore, who was shot and killed at the end of last week. So our teams are here pretty much 2-3 times a week, running circles with our young people. And the principal has asked that we run a restorative circle for the staff of the junior class of teachers, because they are struggling with, this is their second student in the junior class that has been shot and killed. So they have been very busy. And I know the Restorative Justice Conference that was put on last year, I believe it was over Memorial Day. They're already planning for that to happen again. And so circles are an incredible part of the work that we are doing now. And the last thing I'll say, the Peace and Justice Center work is it's a group of monthly community folks who are working to put together our Peace and Justice Center model that will happen when we open the building. So that's been underway throughout the entire pandemic. And prior to that, it was actually the restorative justice community court work, right? And so as we were waiting for Chief Judge Evans to decide whether Austin would be the next one, we decided to take and move forward with a much broader, more in-depth sort of way to think about peace and justice apart from a restorative justice community court. So there's a lot of great work happening behind the scenes. I'm excited about, there's a woman, Erica Sassoon, out of Red Hook in New York, and Red Hook is seen as like if you want to learn about a peace and justice center, restorative justice, and of course, like you go to New York, in Red Hook, in Brooklyn, and this is where you learn. So she is excited to jump on board and work with us as we build this out with communities. So I'll give future updates on that as that continues to come to be. But what an amazing opportunity to have a professional help us here in Chicago to really take what we've done and make it the best it can be when we open in 2022.
Thanks very much for the report and for the work.
Thank you.
There's a question about work we are doing in West Logan Square. What programming is there?
Yep. So in Logan Square, our intervention team is working on the street. I know there's been several acts of violence. They are working actually in partnership with ALLSO, which is another nonprofit that does street intervention. And I actually just got an update from Martin, who is our manager of intervention services, who's given me the update that they're working together to try to understand and see where they can intercede, because there is a gang war that's currently underway there. And as you know, and as you hear from media, it always will spill out into the neighboring Humboldt Park, typically. So it happened in Logan Square, chances are it will not just stay there. So they're on the ground trying to find a way to broker a ceasefire between the two warring factions. Oh, and in you know, our office that is on North Avenue doesn't just serve Humboldt Park, but Logan Square as well. So we have all of our mental health services, and helping community get connected to resources happens out of that office as well.
A question, are we still fundraising for the capital campaign?
Always. I think we are, yes, we are always fundraising for the capital campaign. There are a number of things that we continue to need. And, you know, an interesting story about the capital campaign is we started off small with a 37,000 square foot print, and I think it was a $12,000 budget, or 15, if you'll remember, Christine. And as we continued to see it take shape, it grew to many more, 44,000 square feet and 17 or 18 million. We are at $23 million, 51,000 square feet. And we are continuing to raise funds to support the pieces that we need to build the building, but more importantly, what happens once you have it up, right? So all the pieces that go in to support it, new programming, expanded infrastructure, quite honestly. So yes, there are ways to get involved. And I will just share that we're so excited to have a lot of community partners who will be online in the new building, serving and providing services. So I'll give an update to that hopefully at our next quarterly update, and share with you how that's taking shape.
And last, what are you most excited about for the new building?
Wow, it's such a loaded question, because I'm excited for it all. I can't wait to just run in the gym like a little kid. I can't wait for the Peace and Justice Center to be there and to walk in it. The cafe is going to be absolutely amazing. You know, all the activity rooms and program spaces. It's just, I can't wait to be there the day we open and see kids' faces and smiles and just the look of pure amazement. And as we heard from before, this is for me. So I can't wait to see that young person show up and say, this is for you, come in and enjoy. So most excited about that.
Thank you. Any other questions? That gets through my list. Great. Thank you so much. We're at exactly at 12:45. Oh, a question about who can we reach out to become involved? Great question, Ryan. You can always reach out to me. I'd be happy to send you a note. There's lots of ways to get involved as a volunteer, as a donor, as a volunteer fundraiser, and everything in between. So thank you for that question. And thank you again for coming to this call. We love doing them every quarter. We appreciate you being here and being so enthusiastic. And of course, without your generosity, without your support, we can't do any of our work. So we appreciate you. We're so grateful to have you on board, and see you on the next call.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one.